Spider-Man.
Do you want to go first on this one?
I'll go first. Mine is, I'll say up front, mine is kind of silly. And it's also very sincere. So both silly and sincere, because I have carried this torch for a long time. Give Spider-Man the damn organic webs. Okay?
Oh.
Listen, he got bit by the spider, and you mean to tell me that he has all these extraordinary spider abilities, and yet one of them is not producing his own web? I find that more hard to believe. Bring it on. Like when I saw the original Raimi movie, it's like that made all the sense in the world to me. And I had read Spider-Man comics prior to that, so I knew the lore of, hey, he makes his own web shooters. And I understand the effort to try and like bring the mental side of the character of Peter Parker and how extraordinary his intellect is and partner it up with the physical ability. It's like, great. I understand what they were going for there. But I just find it just silly and inconsistent. It's like, if the guy's a spider, the guy is a spider. Like, he produces his own dang web.
Well, and it's weird because they've done it before.
Yeah.
I mean, Venom technically was the first time.
Sure.
I think Venom was the first time he had it.
I think so.
Organic.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, the suit can make I don't have to make webs anymore.
Right.
And then after that, though, you also had when he became like the other, like the spider, the chosen spider totem, and then he turned it down for whatever reason. I'm pretty sure he was shooting webs out of his wrists for that too.
Gotcha.
But like, if it feels like a simple, like, just a little bit, like, oh yeah, increase the spider power, but just a little bit. Right? Like, he doesn't need, don't get me wrong, he does not need 2 more sets of arms, because that just looks ridiculous.
Correct. Now we get into this is odd and uncomfortable.
Right, but you gotta be careful with that line, though, because then you don't want it to come out of his tuchus.
Correct.
Right? So, like,
Correct.
because that's the other thing.
Correct.
It's like, oh, maybe it's has the web shooters so it can justify the hands and not the ass.
Yes.
So,
right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally acknowledged. It's already a strange and, I mean, bizarre blend when you're merging man and animal. Okay, yeah, no doubt. Nobody wants to see the web come out of the butt. That's weird and gross. No, thank you.
As funny as it would be.
As funny as it would be at times. But no, I'm just saying, I find it a slightly unbelievable gap that it's like he has all these other spider senses, spider abilities to walk on the walls, which is just one of the coolest abilities of any character. So that's awesome. The guy can't, like, this is just a fundamental thing of spiders. They make webs. And I am not an arachnid expert. I'm sure there are some spiders out there that don't actually make webs. Maybe. I don't actually know. My foundational assumption behind a spider is if you're a spider, one of the things you do is you make a web.
I feel like if you don't, you're not a spider.
Right. So it's fine if someone out there is going, a spider doesn't make webs. Okay. He's in the exceptional.
Not a spider.
He's also not a spider.
I'll make an argument.
He's been disqualified. So that's my thing that I would change with Spider-Man is the organic web shooters. Silly, yes, but I also sincerely and will always believe this. Nothing will change my mind.
I think they could make it work where, like, because I think the one thing that's really cool is that he's always been able to make things out of the webs, like the parachutes and the maces and stuff. You could probably still figure out like a web shooter adjacent thing.
There you go.
Where it can filter through.
There you are.
And then it works together.
Nice.
So I think it's fine. I like
a bad idea. I like that. Oh, that's a good blend. Yeah, kind of a web filter that reshapes it into certain. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. Okay, there you go. There's my Spider-Man thing. What would you change in Spider-Man?
I just want Peter to be happy. I feel like in main continuity, they have gone out of their way to make Peter miserable. Because I feel like that they just think that's a staple of the character. He has to be miserable. So for me, I would go back and change the One More Day. Because to this day, it doesn't make sense to me. Aunt May, who is 95 years old and has nothing else to provide in comics, dies. And the devil himself is like, hey, I can bring her back if you give me your marriage. Your marriage will never happen. In what world does he say yes to that deal? In what world does his wife say yes to that deal? And in what world Does Aunt May say yes to that deal? I feel like Aunt May would be like, no, I want to be with your uncle.
Right? I've lived my life long and full. I'm good.
Correct.
Yes.
And that was so great about the Spider-Man PS4 game. Okay. The first one.
Mhm.
Aunt May, spoiler alert, dies towards the end. And it's like the main final straw of him going after Doc Ock because he's like, this is your fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, she dies. And guess what? In the next one, his character, still fine. Him and MJ, stronger than ever.
Mhm.
He doesn't need Aunt May.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they have already done their part in keeping the character grounded.
Yeah.
They have passed on and bestowed everything they possibly could to Peter. And then they're like, you know what? Give me your marriage. I think, personally, Peter should have told him, nah, screw you. Get out of here. Because I think what they should have done for that moment is have Aunt May come in there and be like,
Yeah.
don't even think about doing what you're going to do.
Right.
Because this is not
Right.
what I want. This is not what your uncle would want.
Right.
It's my time to go. I'm going to go.
Let me
You and
Let me
MJ deserve to be happy together.
Mhm.
And, they do reveal later that it's because Mephisto's scared of their child. Because their child will be the end game for him, which is hilarious. Anyways, so that's why he got involved.
Freaking comics, man.
So I think you let him and MJ stay married.
Yeah.
Let them be
Yeah.
happy. Look, anybody that's not Mary Jane at this point that's dating Peter Parker, I don't care about because to me, you're always waiting for him and MJ to get back together.
Correct.
Like, you
Correct.
could have made the argument for Gwen, but Gwen's been dead for like 20, 30, 40, 50 years now. She's been dead for a very long time.
Mhm.
And guess what?
Mhm.
I don't care if they bring her back. Him and MJ are endgame. It's
Doesn't
been
matter.
proven
Yeah.
that they are endgame
Yeah.
multiple times. So let them be married. Let them have kids. I think Peter should be happy overall.
Who doesn't want to see Peter Parker with kids, by the way? Like, what a phenomenally hilarious dad he would be.
Yes. And also think
Yeah.
about it this way, too.
Yeah.
Otto takes over Peter's body. What does he do with Peter's body? He establishes his own corporation. Then that you have Parker Industries.
Mhm.
Let him have that
Mhm.
along with being married.
Yeah.
I want to see what Peter's going to do with having all this money for the first time.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Let him work with the Tony Stark and
Right.
making the world better because he's been proven to be very smart
Mhm.
and very intelligent.
Mhm.
So I want to see that play out in Peter's life just as much as it plays out in Spider-Man's life.
Yeah.
So I think it's absolutely ridiculous
Yeah.
that we have to keep going through this charade.
Well, I totally agree because it's so forced at this point. Now, I understand and I hear, I don't hear you saying, hey, change his origin. No, by all means, like the origin is iconic and it works because you have a foundational tragedy that shapes the trajectory of this character. And this is part of what makes him a hero. It's like, how do you respond? How do you respond to a terrible event? Because you can't control terrible things happening to you. They happen to all of us. So that makes him relatable. But his response to that event is what makes him a hero. He owns up to his part in Uncle Ben's death. He accepts the responsibility and he vows to respond better and differently and more productively. And that's what makes him a hero. You don't need to say that this man's destiny is to be miserable. No. Now we've gone past the point of relatable and now it's just a recurring tragedy. And unless you're a miserable sack, like you don't actually want to read that over and over again where it's like, just a matter of time before this blows up. Like I remember reading, did you ever read the series of Unfortunate Events books?
No, but I remember the movie freaking me out when I was a kid.
No. I don't think I ever watched the movie. I remember Jim Carrey was in it.
It's horrifying.
Yeah. That was, I both semi-fondly remember reading those books and also because it was such a weird experience. Like it was a book where there's never 13 books, okay, hence unlucky, where these three siblings go on this quest to try and solve the disappearance of their parents. Never really do. It's just literally as advertised. It's a series of unfortunate events, and it's just a recurring tragedy. I remember getting to the end of that series and going, well, okay. I mean, the journey was intriguing. Kept me interested long enough to keep on reading all 13 of these dang things. But now that we're here, I can't say I'm terribly satisfied. So, like, release Spider-Man. Release him from this. He can still go through crap, but he doesn't have to be this tragic character.
Well, and here's the other thing too, because you're stunting his growth as a character.
Yes,
it's stunted.
you're exactly right.
You have another character that is Spider-Man, that is younger, that you can kind of put through the ropes if you really wanted to in Miles. I believe Miles is doing way better in comics right now than Peter in the mainstream, right? It also proves its point because I don't know if you heard of the series Renew Your Vows.
No,
Essentially, I believe it is an alternate universe,
Yep.
but it is where Peter is married and
Okay.
he has a daughter, and it's pretty much those three being superheroes
Yep.
together.
Yep.
It's been proven to work. It was
Yep.
a very popular series.
Yep.
So you can't tell me that people don't want that.
Right.
It's just, it also kind of goes with like TV shows and movies in general. Nobody,
sure.
how often do you see like a show continue after the marriage?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's a totally different dynamic at that point.
Right. And you're like, oh, I want to see them happy, but you
Yeah.
only see it for a very short time because everybody's so focused. Like, you can have problems
Yep.
that aren't relational or financial all the time.
It's just going to be different. I think seeing Peter Parker as a dad would be awesome. Like
Yes.
having his child as his sidekick, where he's like, no, I don't want you to be my sidekick. I don't want you to get hurt. And the kid is like insisting.
And I'm pretty sure that's what
Fine.
happens in Renew Your Vows.
Because it would be hilarious. It would be great. Because part of what makes Peter Parker such a great character, and we know this, is the banter. So, hello, stick that with a youth. Fantastic.
Across the Spider-Verse is another great example of Peter B. Parker
Yeah.
being a dad. And that's all he talks about as a kid. And they're like, we get it, Peter.
You're a dad.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
That we can't just let him be happy.
Yeah.
Let him have a family.
Yeah.
Let
These things can happen. It
let
doesn't
him
have
be
to be exclusive.
successful.
Yeah.
And let the problems be, oh, I can't find a cure for this.
Mhm.
Or I can't figure out how to take this villain out.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
my marriage is falling apart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just let the guy be happy.
Yeah. I love it.